room as a whole, watching the way that Sony has continued to become more and more of a factor. I think those two are great complements of each other.
And ideally, would you like to be able to use them like you did in the last game, where it's that balance, or does it matter to you if one guy, gets hot and he carries it?
I think it worked out pretty well last week. I think, like you've heard me say over and over, each game kind of presents a different narrative, but I do think both those guys, like I said, they complement each other really well. Thomas, I really have such trust in Thomas that, hey, he kind of rotates them through based on his feel for the flow of the game. There's always a couple plays that maybe are specific to one guy or the other, but I really just have trust in Thomas to kind of rotate those guys through. I think now that Sony's, accumulated enough experience with us that you feel like, hey, everything is open. There's not anything that, you're saying, all right, he's getting caught up to speed on. So I thought that worked out pretty well last week, but it might be different this week, but that was, I don't know if you'd say ideal, but I thought it worked out well based on the Seattle game.
How has Johnny Kepler been doing? And has he had any effect from the COVID? Is he still, in any sense, recovered?
I think he's feeling good, Kevin. Ideally, the majority of the work that you want to see for Johnny is just as a holder. That's the best case scenario for us. But I think his command, his leadership, there's a lot of things that go on that aren't necessarily seen on game days that he brings so much to our team. And he's meant so much to this organization for long before I got here, and he's continued to be a vital part of it, since I've been here for the last handful of years. But he's done a good job. His opportunities, if they're at a minimum, that's always a good thing for us, as weird as that is to say, but I think he's done a good job, when he's been asked to come out as a punter, and then I think he's done a really good job as a holder for us.
He has a third element, which Les talked about when the decision was made to go with him over Harkins, which is
sure.
Threat of passing. We haven't seen that in a while.
This might be the week. I think it's all situation. It's all predicated on if we feel like that's the best thing to be able to do given the scenario and the feel for the flow of the game. But it is well documented that he's got the ability to throw the football and activate certain things. And that's something that you always want to keep in your back pocket. And we always have those things up. Whether we decide to activate them or not is game predicated.
Les said something in early September, whenever that was, about, that's something you can do 3 or 4 times a year. Do you really think in terms of doing it that often? Or is it important to do it to keep it planted in an opponent's mind?
Yeah, I think the fact that you just know that he's had success in those situations, it does regulate some of the looks that you see based on the punt return team that you're facing. But there are some instances too where you say, okay, if you're going to do that, maybe give Matthew another down. So there's a lot of things that go into that, and all things that we think about. But I would agree with what Les is saying in that arena.
John, the Cardinals traded today for Zach Ertz. You aware of that?
I saw that earlier.
So you guys have been, in recent years, active several times at the trade deadline. Will you guys be that? Well, let me rephrase. What's your reaction to that trade?
Yeah. He's a good player. I think that's a result of Max Williams being out for the year. He had done a really nice job. I think what I respect about what the Cardinals have done is you can see there's an identity that they have offensively. They're getting a lot of different playmakers involved. I think they felt like losing Max, it was important to have somebody that can present a unique skill set from that tight end position. Zach certainly has a resume that speaks for itself, and I can understand the rationale behind the decision. For us, sometimes, we felt like those were the right moves for us in years past. A lot of it is based on, resources you have at your disposal, different things that lead to, what's the flexibility that you have. I don't anticipate that being something that, you won't see any big splash moves like maybe you've seen from us in the past. It doesn't look like that could occur. I would never say never, as you know.
Sean, Chris Garrett, he was on the reserve COVID-19 list. Obviously, he's been inactive the last couple of games. What's your guys' approach been with him? I know a lot goes into who gets a helmet and who doesn't, things like that on game days, but what's the approach you guys?
Seeing progress with him. It's unfortunate because he was a guy that I thought made so much progress throughout the course of the preseason, and you could really see the influence and the effect that he had on the game, specifically just rushing the quarterback. And you guys hear me say it all the time, repetition is the mother of learning. I think he's a young player that has a lot of upside, but he's still continuing to learn. And he really, that COVID got him pretty good. He's recovering. He's getting back where he's getting comfortable. He's really maximizing his practice opportunities. He's done a great job in a lot of the look team settings, giving those offensive linemen and tight ends some really challenging looks, which, he's getting better and he's making our team better. Whether or not he ends up being active, there's a lot of things that go into that. All right, personnel groupings that we're activating. What's his contribution in the kicking game? All those types of things. But he's a guy that we still have a lot of confidence in. But, that COVID did set him back a little bit. But we're still very optimistic about what he can bring to our football team. And whether it's this week or at some point this year, we're going to need him.
So is it fair to say it's just, again, besides the personnel decisions like you mentioned, that it has more to do with maybe him getting up to speed from a conditioning standpoint than anything else?
I think it's all of the above. I think it's okay. Personnel groupings, him getting back comfortable in a rhythm and routine, kind of just and then just continuing to earn that trust from us as coaches. But I've been pleased with Chris. He's done a nice job. I wouldn't look at him not being activated as anything negative other than, hey, it just kind of hasn't worked out. And that's where some of those fringe spots, when you're talking about that 46th to 48th guy on game day, that there's a little bit of flexibility. I think that's required. And the kicking game has a lot to do with that.
Does it seem like you guys haven't played in a while? I mean, you got the mini bye and welcome.
Yeah.
But does it seem like it's been a while?
Yeah, it does. I mean, even when you're watching that Thursday night game, as you're kind of wrapping up some of our game preparation, you're thinking, man, it seems like it was a month ago that we played, not just a week ago. So I think guys are excited. They've been fresh this week. I like the way that we practiced, like the way the guys have handled just our weekly rhythm and our process and our approach, and looking forward to seeing that show itself with the way that we perform on Sunday.
Will you be elevating a special teams D-back or D-back/special teams?
There's a possibility of that. Yeah, that's something that we could look into. I know what you meant. Yeah. Dante Dion is a guy that's a very likely candidate for that. Okay? All right. Thank you, guys.